All right, welcome back to Empowered Living, where we explore ways that families can thrive together. I am Dr. Ann Lewis, psychologist, eating disorder and addiction specialist, and this is
Hi, I'm Rachel Ferguson, and I'm here as a nutrition life coach and physical therapist with over 25 years of experience. And we're here to empowered living today. And today we're going to talk about the amazing challenges of family dynamics and trying to eat and encourage healthy habits.
specifically focusing on exercise and eating together. And as someone who does a lot of personal training, and actually a certified personal trainer, and also have a lot of kids, this is something that really interests me. And I can say, in the vast number of children, we have 10 children, and the vast number of children that we have had, I have seen a lot of different reactions to a lot of different strategies. So this episode is really warm to my heart. I know, Rachel, you have a lot of experience as well, not just clinically getting people into movement, but also as a mother. And so I think this one really resonates for both of us. And what is really cool about this is that the research shows that the children and parents who engage in exercise and healthy eating habits together will maintain those long terms. And there are benefits not just for mental health, but also our physical well being in terms of chronic illnesses and conditions that can happen because we don't move enough or we're not eating healthy enough. That this can protect against. And in a country where we have rising obesity epidemic, anything that we can do as parents to help our children and to help ourselves and to gain momentum in our family for healthy living is something that is going to benefit us long term. Now, I will say, and this is a side note, this wasn't included in what we discussed earlier, that one of the most important features of treatment for major depressive disorder is physical activation, simply getting up and getting moving. And research has shown this time and time again. And I say this humbly because I am in the field of therapy and I have been doing therapy for over 20 years. And it's very humbling to realize that most of my initial strategies with human beings is just simply getting them out of their house and going for a walk, even to walking to the mailbox. And if exercise is that critical to our mental health and is that substantial in even helping depression, can you imagine what happens in families when we can do this together?
Yes, that's amazing. And I hope you all heard she said she had 10 children, and I have six. And our kids vary in ages. We're moving into adulthood with a lot of them, but we have
Mm,
moved from little kids, and that's the thing we're going to move next to is common barriers that we all experience. We fight the challenges of lack of time, picky eaters, and even just that motivation, as Anne was just talking about, that motivation to do the things together. And so we're going to hit on some of those. Anne, you want to kind of highlight how it's affected your family?
yes. Okay. So the first one, lack of time. This one is an interesting one, and I think this one hits home for most of us as parents. Most of us in a busy world where we're just trying to. The word I use often when I do family therapy, survive, is surviving life. So with busy schedules, finding time to cook healthy meals or even engaging in exercise and physical activities, it can be really challenging because I don't know about you, Rachel, but my day starts at like 5 a.m. and it
Mhm,
ends sometimes at 10 p.m. And
mhm.
outside of the fact that I am blessed to sit for a living and listen to people talk, outside of that, it's hard for me to catch in physical movement. And I see this as well with students and with our children, our teenagers. We have three teenagers left of the 10 at home, all the rest are adults. That, as their life gets busier, as, they're sitting in school, they're doing homework and sometimes hours of homework, that the last thing that they want to do is get up and get moving. And Rachel, I'm
Mhm.
curious for you how you experience that, not just as a mom, but also what you hear clinically when you're dealing with people or coaching people in just that lack of time.
That's the biggest thing. Like, Anne and I are believers, and if you're a believer, the devil succeeds in keeping us busy. And
Mm,
society then feeds all of that, that we have to stay busy. And other areas that we've already talked about in some of our other episodes is just we have to be intentional to take care of us. Again, we talk at length taking care of our own temple that the Lord has given us. But then we're also trying to steward that for our family. And so we have to be intentional of what is the time that we've been given in a day. And I love to look at it like, even if, so I've taken the piece of looking at the Lord asks us to tithe again from the biblical perspective. The Lord says, tithe your money. Again, that's a whole nother area we can talk about. But I've carved that out to even ask, what do I do to tithe my day, the day that I've been given? And again, people are like, oh my gosh, you're talking about 2 hours of doing something. But why wouldn't you take 2 hours to eat better? And again, space it out to when you're going to eat and when you're going to do activities. But because the devil succeeds in keeping us busy. So we have to stop
Yes.
and realize this busyness was put on us. And what are we doing with the busyness? And they can all be great productive ideas, but our lack of time is because we're not being intentional with our time. So again, this is a recovering time
Oh,
management person here, but like we have to stop and look at it. We have lack of time because we picked up too many balls to carry. And so, and that's for us personally, to us as a family. And if we don't take care of this temple, which means eating better, moving better, hydrating, and sleeping, we can't do all of the activities. Like literally, we crash and burn. So I
hmm.
love talking about lack of time. And again, just trying to narrow it down. Like if you broke that out to just what have I done in 10 minutes of a day? What have I done 10 minutes to try to eat? Like we have to break it down and see that it is because of the devil making us busy that we have lack of time.
And if the devil can't make us busy, he absolutely can make us distracted. And I know one of the
Yes.
excuses I hear often, and one of the excuses that even sometimes I use, is that I don't really have time. And then I review my day and I realize that a chunk of my time got spent doom scrolling, or a chunk of
Yes.
my time got
Yes.
wasted in something. And it's not that we need to be productive all the time. Absolutely, it can be
Right.
healthy for us to sit down and watch a movie with our family. It can be healthy for us to chill a little bit. And sometimes, I don't know
Yes.
about you, Rachel, but sometimes I feel like I just need to sit and drool for a little bit. I literally just need to be
Yeah.
like almost like a potato, literally.
Right. Yes. Yes.
And if I'm spending my time, and the word that you used was intentional, if I'm spending my time and I'm not really mindful of it, sometimes it feels like a lack of time
Yes.
simply because I'm not being mindful of it. All right. So the second thing is picky eaters. Oh, I
Yes.
love this one. Family members, especially children, may resist trying new foods, sticking to what they know and love, which sometimes is not the healthiest option. Now, I will say one of the things that's really fun. I'm gonna call my husband out. I love my husband to death, and he is a Texan through and through, and he was raised on fried foods like none other, and foods that I like. His fondest childhood memories. We go somewhere, and sometimes we'll travel, and we'll go into a little hole in the wall restaurant, and he always gets excited when he sees fried bologna cups with mashed potatoes and gravy. And that was something that
What?
I know I what? What?
Yeah.
What?
Baloney
So
cups? What?
okay. I was not raised on this. I am not judging you if you like this.
No.
He also likes
No.
a lot of like fried chicken. That is like a staple for a lot of people. I'm not against fried chicken or bologna. Um, but it's what is challenging in our own family is not only did my was my husband raised on Southern food, but I have kids that have different preferences and different opinions. So I got some kids that love chili, some kids that hate chili, some kids that hate beans, some kids that hate barbecue, some kids that love barbecue, some kids that hate sushi, some kids that want sushi, some kids that just want to eat a basic American feel fare. And then we add to that then in-laws and boyfriends and girlfriends of my now older children who have their own family units, and suddenly it feels like no matter what I do or what I prepare, somebody's going to be angry or somebody's going to be real
Mhm.
disappointed and not eat dinner. um,
Mhm.
and so picky eating is really challenging, and we want to layer this then with other symptoms and other conditions that may impact that, like autism, ADHD. There are certain RFID disorders that create texture issues. So there's a lot of things that can actually contribute to picky eating that isn't simply because someone is being overly rigid. The phrase that I like to use is we crave what we consume. And so as children, if we didn't get enough, kind of like my husband as children, if we didn't get enough exposure to fruits and vegetables or things that were baked instead of fried, then we constantly crave it because that's what we enjoyed in childhood. That's what our bodies became accustomed to.
Mhm.
Rachel, any thoughts for you? I see you nodding your head as I'm talking about picky eaters. You got any fun examples?
Oh goodness, we laugh at our children that they come in twos, so we can. There's the really picky ones and the ones that want it a certain way. Like I want mine fried, I want mine light, I want mine not cooked all the way. Like there's there is ways to successfully have the gamut of individuals and still help to make healthy choices. So picky eating, yes, is a barrier, but in a moment we're going to talk through all of these things because again, I know you can speak to those layers of those emotional pieces that come along to why they continue to pick certain foods and all
Mhm.
of those situations come into it too.
Yes, yes. Okay, so the third barrier is motivation and resistance to change. So for a lot of us, change is painful, even positive change. And I talk about this often in the patients that I see and the clients that I serve, because people can come into my office saying, I know what I need to do, but I'm just not do I just don't I don't I'm not motivated to do it. I don't want to do it and I don't know why. And when we explore things, what it often comes down to is we are creatures of habit. We are not, we are creatures of the flesh, and it's really easy for us to succumb to the flesh. And what I mean by that is that we are actually called by God to do more and to actually have self-discipline, and that is something that is not innate for us as human beings. And we know that because if you've ever been around a toddler, especially a toddler who's already experienced ice cream or desserts or cake or that kind of stuff, we got toddlers that for breakfast want to eat all of that stuff. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but I've certainly have seen my fair share of our children that sneak their little hands into the cookie drawer and they're eating something before I get a chance to feed them. And now I don't have those little toddlers. I have a granddaughter now who does some of the exact same things because we like what we want to like. But we were actually called to learn self-discipline. We were called to master our flesh. We were called to succumb to the process involved in learning how to live in willpower. Um, and and so in family units and with children, and sometimes even with our partners, we might get on the train to make the change and we might get motivated and willing to do some of the hard stuff and willing to show up. But then if we're in an environment and around other people and our partner isn't online or they're wanting to eat all the funky foods, or our kids are like, oh, I don't like cottage cheese, or I don't want to try this XYZ, or ooh, that's gross, we might wind up feeling really discouraged and not motivated even to make our own changes. Um, and I would say that as well for exercise, that one of the hardest things to do for us as human beings is to create momentum. I talk about
Mhm.
this time and time again. It is easier for us when we have momentum to actually create more momentum because we're kind of already going with the flow. But when we're coming from a place of not doing, it is incredibly painful for us to start doing. So, for those of us that aren't exercising, for those of us who aren't eating very well, or we're not being very mindful about what goes in our body or what we're doing in our free time, to even start moving that direction sometimes is in and of itself the hardest part, just simply getting started and doing something.
Yes. Yes, I mean, again, it goes to that law of resistance. We'll get some physics in there. Like to get that ball to roll, it takes a certain amount of pressure, and it's harder pressure to get it started and going than just to keep it going. And it's taking those steps into it. Like you have to have the motivation, again, just to start with yourself and start to take small steps because it's a process. We've talked about this before. Like it's not immediate that you're going to get, especially a family with 10 children or mine with six, everybody included. And as they move into adulthood and have to make their own choices, And again, I think, Anne, you're going to speak to that too as we talk about overcoming some of these barriers, that we have to start with why we want to do it and be completely transparent as to why we want to make this change for ourselves. And again, making us feel better, sleep better, have more ability to get through the day. And that is what helps, again, get others going along in this process. So you just have to start to take the steps. And that kind of brings us into these other pieces. So as we talk about all of these barriers, let's start to look at how we can effectively start to counter some of these barriers. Anne?
Yes. So I actually want to add something to this that I think is probably the most vital part that isn't a part of necessarily the family and change in the family and family dynamics in general, but is the most important part overall. First things first is that we have to be able to do it for ourselves. We have to be able to prioritize our own self-care. And the
Mhm.
reason that I'm saying that is that if we can only do it in the context of family, or we need everybody in the family to do it with us in order for us to feel like we're doing the right things, or that we can actually change the stuff internally, then there's going to be a lot of difficulty creating momentum in your own family. You have to get the ball rolling for yourself and learn how to carve out some of that time for yourself before we engage with the family. Now,
Mhm.
having the support of the family makes it that much better. So, here are some strategies for the family in doing this. The first thing is prioritizing family time, scheduling specific times for family meals and activities. Treat them like important appointments. So these are things that we're not doing over. So if you are doing something with your family, meal night, dinner time is something that we live by. And it's hard when we have teenagers, and it's even harder when we have young adults that have their own license and they're going and they're doing and they have jobs and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And so we have to learn to flex on some of those things. But often, if we set the standard and the grounds that meals, dinners will always be served at this time, this is
Mhm.
always what we're going to do, or every Saturday at this time, whoever can make it, we are going to do XYZ activity. And we actually commit to that activity. So instead of it, and I hear this a lot in my own family, I don't feel like doing it.
Mhm.
I feel that. I feel
Mm.
that.
Mhm.
The problem with it is that if we're waiting for everybody in the family to feel like doing it, we may never get there as a family.
Right.
And sometimes that might look like, as parents, we have to encourage and support that person who doesn't feel like it. Sometimes we got to get really curious. Why do you not feel like it? Is it because you don't like the activity? You don't like the meal? You're angry at somebody in the family? Or is it because you're not feeling really well and you're really exhausted? Is there a reason why you're not feeling well and you're exhausted? Did you study for an exam? Was there, like, did something happen at school today where your feelings got hurt, or you got mad at one of your teachers? All of these things might be valid reasons for that one family member to skip that activity that day.
Yep.
But having the conversation and still committing to the activity is our job as the leaders of the family.
Yep.
And I'm saying this for dads as well as moms. It doesn't matter if you're the
Yep.
person who's like super
Yep.
motivated to get it done. You now have become the leader in this,
Yep.
and you're now potentially that instrument for change in your family. And I would also like to say that one of the things that I do a lot of now, that I didn't always do, and I used to when we had a lot of kids at home, I would live just about every day by the seat of my pants. And what that looked like when I would grocery shop is I would go out and I would think about all the things that I potentially could make out of my head.
Mhm.
Moment's notice, okay? And I would buy all that stuff.
Mm.
Okay. So fast forward a few years and several moves later, I realized, after cleaning the refrigerator, and some of my adult kids and my teenagers helped me clean the fridge, that when we had food that had been expired for over 3 years still sitting in the fridge because
Uh-huh.
we hadn't used it because I didn't plan it, or unopened food in the pantry because I didn't use it because I didn't plan for it, that not only was that not a great method for me meal planning, but it was also a waste of money.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that I have really picked up with now less kids, and I've matured a little bit over time and gotten a little bit more regulated as a human being, is that now I meal plan for the day, and I will meal prep usually on a Saturday or a Sunday, just depending upon which day that I'm honoring as Sabbath, and that is my rest day. but I will then meal prep for the rest of the week. And it's not just meal prepping as in making casseroles, but really grocery shopping, planning for, and even writing down a menu for the week. And
Mhm.
what I have discovered, and Rachel, I'd love to ask you about how you kind of manage this in your family of six, because we both have a lot of kids that we have prepared for. What I've discovered about that is not only does that make it easier for me and more streamlined for me, and I'm not doing this like last minute thing where I'm eating my way through the kitchen while making dinner. I'm speaking to
Yes.
those of you that may do that. I'm not saying that all of us
Yes.
do that. That's my particular thing. But also, it allows then the kids that I have, and even my husband, if there's a specific meal that they're not really thrilled about, it allows me to problem solve with them, or they can come up with a different thing that they would like to eat for dinner.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's as simple as me breaking out food. So I've got a daughter who doesn't like barbecue at all.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how that happened in a house with like everybody else who loves barbecue, but she don't like it. She likes tomatoes. She don't like barbecue. Okay. And so sometimes what I will do is I will simply omit the sauce on a
Yes.
serving of meat for her and then put the sauce in the rest of everybody else's.
Yep.
And then she has something that she can use. Rachel, I'm curious for you how you have figured out this path for you in terms of um, prioritizing family time, but figuring out some of these nuances with your own family.
Yeah, so it's great as you were talking about that family member that didn't want to participate in the family activity. We also do that. Again, ours are older. We only have one teenager that's not got wheels, and then another teenager with wheels and a busy life, and the rest of them are adults. Um, so again, things have changed where we tried to have certain 1 to 2 nights that those are the nights we set for dinner. We also tried that. We are not a big it's an on the go breakfast, so we very rarely slow for breakfast, but everybody has their various ways that they grab their breakfast item, they're gonna have. But as they move into this adulthood, we've planned, like, basically quarterly, we try again, anybody that can make it is coming for a get together, and again, we also pick the Saturday night. Again, pick whatever day of the week it is. We have followed the transition of the kids getting older, and they were resistant. They were like, "No, I'd rather be getting my homework done," or "No, I don't feel like eating today," or "No, I don't wanna talk to anybody." And again, in those moments, just like you did, it was a conversation of why today, and there's some days that they had to do it anyway, and there were other days that
Mhm.
that conversation was, "Okay, you're out for this one, but no, next week, like, we're still doing this together." And it's funny because they were resistant to start it, and it's
Uh-huh.
hard as the parent to go, I'm going to let you get out of this one, but then I'm going to make you do the other one. But now they want to. Like, it's funny. They will have conversations with each other of, hey, we're all getting together. That's my time to pick the meal. So, again, another solution we did was if someone doesn't like it, then we rotate the kids picking the meals. And that's picking the
Mhm.
meals for the ones that still live in the house, which takes the burden off of me to always come up with ideas. But in all the clients that I have talked with too, like again, we're creatures of habit. So here we are, moms or dads going to the grocery store going, here's this huge mega place with all this food. And what am I going to pick this week? Well, the reality is most of the time in a 2 week time frame, you kind of want 2 or 3 of the same meals. Like, if my kids could pick
Mhm.
3 of the same meals, we would probably eat it 3 or 4 times a month, and then they look at me and say it's too much. But, okay, then I started going, "Okay, well, we're gonna hit those 2 or 3 things that you want over the month," and again, everybody chimes in, and so reality is I don't really have to create out of the ordinary meals very often. Like, I really only have to come up with 1 or 2 in a month because one kid wants this and the other ones are like, "Oh yeah, I like that." And so because we think we have to look at the gamut of the grocery store and get creative every time, we don't. If we would just go with what our family enjoys, have some of those again healthy options available when those snacks are needed while they're trying to fix the meal or snacks coming in from school or studying for a test, like I just have options that again over time they were the ones they want to pick. Then I go to the store and I'm like, "Oh, look, my cupboards have all of these things. My refrigerator already has these things. these are what I need to pick up, and I just have to create one new idea. So
Mm.
it and again, we get the kids involved. If you're getting bored or complaining, then it's your turn to pick the new thing, and they start cooking
Oh,
it. So I
oh,
want these kids to start to grow up and actually learn to cook for themselves. And so we have gotten lovely new menu items because the kids are like, "Hey, I want to Pinterest try this." And again, funny story, they don't turn out like the Pinterest pictures either.
no.
Even though they give mom a hard time for it not looking like it, it's great when they start learning to cook, and it doesn't Pinterest look that way either. But that has helped us. We follow our habits. We start to introduce new things with healthier options. And again, the kids are involved in that decision. So when I go to the store, I don't really go for much. And it's funny, for the first time in 10 years, I took two of my teenagers, one's a college kid and one's the youngest, to the grocery store with me, and they're looking at it like it was a foreign object. I'm like, "You've been to the store before. What do we need to pick up?" And they're like, "I don't know. What do you want me to pick up?" And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, even at the age they are right now, we can't get through the grocery store." So, I appreciate the we go with a plan just to
Well,
pick up what we think we're gonna need.
Rachel, you just did a beautiful job introducing and covering really the second way to reduce the barriers is involving everyone in meal planning, and I love how you just slid into that. I think one of the cool things that I have done, and one of the really fun things that you just said that I want to point out as a psychologist that is phenomenal that you did, is the moment that one of your kids starts complaining, you look at them and say, okay, now it's your job, it's your time to pick. And the
Mhm,
reason why I like that is because I see so many people that are it's known in therapy land as calling like complainants. In other words,
mhm,
they show up to therapy and they just want to complain about the world and their life and their family members and their friends and yes, all the things. And their children sometimes they just want to complain. That's all they want to do. They don't want to fix, they don't want to address it. And it stems from a lack of empowerment and sometimes a feeling of
yeah,
victimization. Sometimes there are legitimate things that we are struggling to get through as human beings. So I'm not, please don't misunderstand that. There is a time and place to come and complain about life. What I love that you did is you move it into a place of empowerment. Great. You don't like this. Now it's on you to cultivate something new. And that is a beautiful way of teaching our children how to manage their feelings and the things that they don't like in life. Because at the moment that we're saying, I don't like this and this isn't working for me, and you keep making meals that aren't good and whatever this is, what you did is so beautiful because you handed them over their own power and you said, okay, wonderful. Now it's your turn. And one of the things that I have just recently implemented is insisting that my teenagers, we rotate who's cooking. And this phenomenal. One of my 15-year-old son recently went out to the grill and he made hamburgers for us. They were pre-made hamburgers. It wasn't like he salted them. They like rotated it 10 minutes and that kind of stuff. And I came home and dinner was made
yay!
for me, and it was all set out. Now he just grilled the burgers. I don't know if he chopped all the stuff. I think my husband helped him and that kind of stuff. What is so beautiful about this is that is now that is a young man who is moving into the role that he will need to be in his family. He is
Mhm,
providing and providing and not and taking some of the burden off of what is has been assigned and that I accept as my role in the family, which is I predominantly do the meal planning, I predominantly do the food preparation. And as I'm seeing my kids shift to this, I insisted that my 18-year-old daughter who's got a lot of ADHD, she loves a certain meal. And I said, great, you're going to learn how to make it. And she's like, oh, there are too many steps. And I'm like, girl, it is not that complicated. And one day she wanted it. I said, okay, great. Come on, you're going to make it. And she's like, no, I just want to go to bed. Can't you just make it? And it was a bean recipe that you put in the crock pot. It's literally you dump and
mhm,
go. And I
yep,
said, honey, it will take 10 minutes. You want it, you're going to get it. And she did it. And she was super proud of herself for doing it.
yep, yep,
Um, and the reason why this is cool is that as parents, very often we wind up feeling burdened with all the things going on in life. And one of the things that we have to learn how to do in our families is not just utilize our children so they feel good about what they're doing and they feel a sense of worth and a sense of empowerment about who they are as human beings, but also it frees up emotional space and time for us as parents. And the verse in the Bible, as iron sharpens iron, so one friend sharpens another, also exists in family units. That it is our job as parents not to make our kids do stuff and force them to like it. It is our job as parents to challenge and encourage and support. And there's a big difference between making and shaming a child into a habit that we want them to cultivate and encouraging and enforcing it. So I'm not telling any of my kids they have to do something. I can't make them do something. I can strongly insist and I can give consequences and I can set boundaries, but I will never make my children do very many things. I will instruct them on what it is that they need to do, and I'll give them a consequence if they don't do it, or I'll set a boundary and I'll say, okay, well, then you're not going to get red beans and rice.
Mhm.
And that's on you, but come on, girl, we can do it. And I didn't focus a ton on the consequences to do that. I just like did a lot of encouragement. Come on, you got it, you love it, I would love it too, everybody likes this recipe. I'm going to show you how fast it is, like
Yep.
literally. I will help you along this journey.
Yep.
And when we do that as parents, we're actually encouraging some really positive and pro-social behaviors in our kids.
Yeah,
Okay.
and again, even though we talk about our growing kids, even if you have young kids as you're listening to this, like, you can even start small. Some of these barriers of, again, wanting to do it or feeling like it takes too much time, as they're little, as they can start to participate, they realize, again, the work that mom and dad put into preparing this, like, again, as they interact with it, sometimes it's just they don't know how long it's gonna take. So they fear the time that they're gonna have to be involved doing it. But again, even when they're little, you can include them in this, cook beside you, get involved, you pick out the, even if it's just peanut butter and jelly, you pick the jelly that you want today, if that's an option. So that again, they start to see their empowerment and choice to the things that they also get to eat and how the family reacts to the things. Again, everybody, even the littlest of kids who help out, get super excited if they just completed a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and that other people are enjoying it. So again, it's empowerment around food instead of the shame and guilt to the process, to the eating. Like, these are ways that we can start to help just bring them along in the process. And that goes on
Okay.
even into movement as we get
Yes.
into that number 3.
So the last one, the third one, is making exercise fun. And I feel like this one just like is almost like a bomb drop in certain families. For some families, this isn't going to be a big push. In other families, this can be really, really challenging. And some of that can be even for us as parents, our own physical limitations as we age and we get arthritis and things start hurting. I know, like, my back is always hurting in some way, shape, or form because I've always done something to jack it up, or I sat too long, or I traveled too long, like whatever it is, it's always my back. Okay.
Mhm.
And we legitimately, as human beings, we are getting older and things will hurt on us. Um, one of the one of the things that can really challenge this, and I say this often when I talk to people, and I work with a lot of different people on all sides of the spectrum when it comes to exercise. If you are exercising and it is not fun, you are doing it wrong. And I am not saying that
Uh-huh.
every single time I show up, I'm like, yay, I love this. There are certainly workouts. I just had one this morning that I was like, oh, I can't wait to get this one over with. But at the end of that, I feel better. And it's not better because I was really anxious because I am worried about calories that I'm burning or worried that I'm not going to be in shape. It's I feel better because I did something that made me respect myself by doing a hard thing. And also, I feel focused for the day because I got my workout in the first part, and that helps relieve stress for me. But
Mhm.
overall, what I would say is that if you're not enjoying exercise, if you're really dreading it, then the exercise that you're using or doing is not good for you. And it might have been good for you at a
Mhm.
certain point, but at a certain point, if we're only dreading it, if every moment that we're spending sucks the life out of you, that is not something that's healthy for you. And it's also not something healthy for our children to engage in. And the example that I give, I give is my own personal example. When I had young kids, I was a competitive swimmer growing up. So my husband and I were both athletes in school, and he went on to college to play ball, and I swam. And when I had a whole bunch of little kids at the house, it was really hard for me to make it to the swimming pool. And so I took up running, and I thought, okay, I'm going to be a runner. And I committed to this process, and this was like an arduous process. Like, I would do the run walk for like a mile, and it's just like, and the whole time. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna get up this rhythm. And I went with a few friends that had ran like marathons, and they were runners, real runners, quote unquote, real runners. That's my air quote
Hmm.
for the day.
Yeah.
Um, and they would talk with me, and they said, "Yeah, don't you love the runner's high?" I remember this one lady saying this to me, and I looked at her, and we're running, and I'm like huffing and puffing, and we're running, and my eyes are jiggling, and like everything on my body hurts. And I said, "What?" And she explained it, and I was like, I mean, I experienced that in swimming where you kind of get in the zen zone and you're just moving and everything's grooving and you're like loving life. I like, no, the whole time, all I can think in my head is, this sucks. This sucks the whole time. And I hard committed. I did a couple half marathons. I did multiple 5Ks. I did some
Awesome.
obstacle races. And the obstacle races were actually fun for me, but all of the runs sucked the living life out of me. And so when I say this, what I'm saying is, in a place of humility. This wasn't some weird flex where I'm like, oh, look at me, I ran. I hated it. I absolutely dreaded it. It was not meant for me. That is not my form of exercise. And I had to find something else. And I hear so many people talking about exercising because they quote unquote should, and it's good for them.
Yes.
But what
Mhm.
they're doing, they hate. Well, newsflash, if you hate your exercise and you're trying to engage your kids in exercise or your partner in exercise and they don't want to do it, chances are it's because they don't see you enjoying it either. Chances
Mhm.
are it's because they're like, oh my gosh, my mom's miserable, my dad's miserable. They don't like doing this. They complain about it all the time, like I did. Um,
Yes.
why would I want to sign up for that? So,
Yeah.
exercise and movement, let's broaden our range. It can be
Yes.
walking, right? It can
Yes.
be walking, it can be playing basketball together. It
Yep.
can be
Which is
go,
just maybe you play horse. Like again, you don't
yes,
have to play a full game of basketball. Again, like Anne was talking at the start of this, like just getting outside, releasing the endorphins of being outside and soaking up some sun and getting some fresh air is what we're trying to start at movement. So it can be that simple walk. It can just be outside enjoying time together. It can go play corn. You go play cornhole.
yes.
It is just steps to get your family to enjoy the moment as best you can together. And again, you may have some outliers that are sitting there grumbling, but again, that consistently, we're going to get together and do some sort of movement together is what we're trying to pull together. I agree
And
with Anne.
anything that you can do to make it fun, even if you gamify it. So,
Yep.
at one point, one of my kids, I think it was my middle daughter, who loves all things that are interesting and she loves games. She actually introduced me to the world of geocaching, which is just like what is it like? It's not a souvenir hunt; it's a scavenger hunt. You're trying to
Yep.
find places where people. Um, oh, I think I lost you for a second.
Yeah,
But
just for a second.
yeah. So places where people have actually hidden little treasures, and you sign your name, and
Mhm.
like it's a right. It's essentially a sport to find it, and you can walk sometimes up to half a block just finding this teeny tiny little vial that's randomly hidden somewhere. But you're still getting exercise. It's not necessarily sweating. It's not necessarily out running or doing something where you're getting great cardiovascular health. You are still moving though. And
Yep.
any form of movement is going to be in the right direction. Oftentimes, as families, I encourage families to do hikes together. If you're going out somewhere, you can do an urban hike, AKA, we can like window shop. That's what that is,
Yep.
guys. That's urban
Yep.
hiking.
Yep.
Um, we can go and look at the world. We can go to a national park and go to a certain area of the park and walk to that area instead of driving to that area. All of these things fit into this. We can tell stories while we're walking.
Yep.
All of them fit into healthy degrees of exercise. You don't have to walk into a gym or be on a treadmill for it to be considered exercise.
Right. Right. And I love what you said, Anne. My biggest thing as I talk to people is as we're working on us and being that transparent, again, sharing that you don't enjoy running, that's okay. Like again, it's showing our kids. I think the biggest challenge, I guess, from my childhood, I'll share, like, for parents trying to take care of themselves, whether it's their health, their eating, their finances, their exercise, even their time in the Bible. They may be doing it, but I never heard it. So, my biggest thing with people is sharing this with your kids shows your kids both the things that are hard for you. You start to get transparent of why you want to work on it. And again, as I move into this season where I'm having to care for my body even more, because again, I'm trying to eat better so that I minimize those aches and pains. But ultimately, I tell everybody our brake pads in every joint are wearing out just like they do our car. So I'm trying to
Mhm.
minimize my squeaky brake pads from happening. And I'm telling my kids that, like, I'm making these choices because I want to live and move for as long as possible. And I truly feel in 25 years of doing therapy, if we give our body the right preparation, just like we would our vehicle, it can stay moving and doing a lot of things, but we have to make those adjustments over time. And when our kids see us being transparent and sharing, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to. Or we're making these choices because this is what we're trying to accomplish later. I think that transparency again gives that more rounded kids the understanding of this is our hard stuff. This is our push through stuff. This is our we do it because we need to do it. And I that's what I'm trying to encourage people. Like this is giving your kids the chance. I hate to run too. Love you guys who are runners. I also it's biblical the wicked run. So I'm just saying like I know the Lord allows us to run, and Paul even talks about running with perseverance, but it also says the wicked run. So I just can't run. I just can't. I feel like every bit of me is like solid cement to the ground. Again, love you runners. I tried different shoes. I participated in a sprint triathlon just so I could power through. So again,
Yes.
the
Yes.
kids watching us power through and again picking the things that do again, I also love to swim more than I love to run,
Mhm.
but it teaches our kids to also when are we gonna push through? When are we picking the things that our bodies can actually do better? I assume that I just am naturally more a swimmer than I am a runner because I feel like I have cement for feet. Um, and that's again what I try. I feel like it's giving our kids that openness to start to see how they interact with the body they have. And again, what do they want to choose to keep that body moving?
Yep. Yep. The benefits of these practices are absolutely significant. Research shows that children who exercise with their families are 50% more likely to carry these habits into adulthood. What do you think about 50% more
Yep.
likely? Families that also eat together tend to have healthier diets, with kids consuming more fruits and vegetables, less sugary drinks. There's more mindfulness practices because kids, I don't know, like my teenagers, they will pick all of the junk food, all of the
Yeah.
junk food. And then when I ask them
Yep.
what they ate for dinner, it's like, Mom, I had Doritos and a soda and like a couple beef sticks. And I'm
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, right." So the more that we're engaged with this as parents, but also the more that we engage our families with this, the better the outcome for our children as well as
Mhm.
ourselves. We're promoting this health inside of our family, and we're doing it in such a way that's going to positively impact. I want to add to this as well that self-esteem improves in children that engage in chores, that are helping and participating in cooking meals, that are participating in meal planning and meal prepping, that actually the rate of self-esteem boosts by about
Yep.
25 to 50%. You think
Yep.
about in a nation where we're in a mental health crisis very often, where kids are struggling with
Mhm.
anxiety and depression, giving them things to do actually
Mhm.
improves that naturally.
Yep. Yep.
So, Rachel, I was wondering, does this feel like a good place for us to wrap up today?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've hit on some really good topics. We hope everyone can take a piece from what we've said today and again start to take the steps. Again, whether you started this from childhood, again, I did not. I would tell you this has been a complete work in progress, especially as we've added more kids and now out partners of our kids. Our kids are in the process of partnering up to get married. Like, this is an ever changing process, and no matter where you are in this process, you just take the steps. Again, most importantly, starting with yourself, but how can you then overlay and share it with the kids that you have in the house and your partner?
Yes. Yes. You want to wrap us up in prayer?
Yes, ma'am. Let's do that. Heavenly
Okay.
Father, we thank you. Thank you so much for the gift of the family and the blessing of our health. Just the life that you have given us, Lord. We just so greatly want to give you the glory for what you've given us. We ask for your guidance as we strive to create habits and healthy eating to exercise together. Help us to overcome our barriers, nurture our relationships through mindful choices. May we be inspired by your word, Lord, to support one another and grow in love and wellness. Bless our efforts, and may the actions glorify you. It's in your name, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We hope you found these insights helpful. Remember, together we can build happier, healthier family dynamic. Until next time, take care, stay healthy, and give us a follow.
If this is helpful, give me a like, follow me, or subscribe for more.